Absolutely. I think it's critical that we promote education for girls. And as we educate our girls, we also educate our sons to support their partners in the future, in the sense that they're going to be independent women that are going to be in the workforce, and you also need to participate in the household.
Yeah, that is
Right?
important. Yeah.
Yeah, without that, it's very hard, especially when girls have babies and all women. Then it gets harder, because now how do you pursue your career with
Exactly.
with no support, right?
Exactly.
We need the support from the spouse.
Absolutely. That's very important. So choose good spouses.
Yeah. That is so important. Hi Poonam.
Hi, Sanjna.
Hi, great to see you today. I'm so happy that you came to my studio for a great conversation that we're going to have. Poonam, I've always been impressed by your dignity, your classiness, and I want to know how your journey was. Like, how did you evolve to a person that you became now?
First of all, thank you, Sanjana, for inviting me and for doing this. I really appreciate hearing and learning about other people and their journeys and their voices. So I really thankful to you for doing this. My life has been sort of unusual in the sense that I was adopted by my father's sister, oldest sister, my bua. So it was an in-family adoption. I was adopted by my aunt. She was the oldest of all the siblings. She was 22 years older than my father.
Okay.
And she was born in the 1930s.
Oh, wow.
And she fought for her education. She was the only one that was educated in our family.
Okay.
The fourth barrister at law in India, fourth woman barrister at law.
Okay.
So she...
At that age.
At that time.
At that time.
Yes. So she had a very long, difficult journey, and she truly valued education. And she did a lot for women's rights in India.
Okay.
From laws around inheritance, changing that, to helping change laws around alimony and so forth.
Okay.
So I was raised by her, and I was adopted at 1. I was a premature baby, a sickly baby. My parents weren't sure I was going to survive. They were both very young, 18 and 22, when they had me.
Okay.
So I needed constant care, and she lived in the city close to the hospital. They had their own business. They were 2 hours outside the city. So it came about sort of naturally through that.
Okay.
And her values were very much, you as a girl get an education. Otherwise, you will end up being someone's maid. That was her whole sort of thought process.
Okay.
So for me, growing up with her as a single mother, it was very unusual upbringing in India.
Yeah.
Also, I was raised by a lot of au pairs and help, and they were mostly, my favorite au pair was from Belgium in Europe.
Okay.
So I also grew up speaking some French.
Okay.
So I had a lot of other influences as well.
That's where that accent comes from. Right? Which actually sounds really good.
And my 2 aunts are American there, so like family friends. So I ended up growing in a more international environment.
Okay.
And had the good luck of being able to travel with her as well.
Okay.
When I was 15, actually, she ended up being diagnosed with cancer. And I dropped out of high school to be a full-time caregiver for her.
Okay.
And it ended up being terminal, and it was a long, hard-fought battle. but she passed away, unfortunately, when I was 16 and a half. So eventually I went back to high school. At that point, I did not return to my birth parents. I stayed alone and fought for my education. My birth parents at the time were very traditional and would have wanted me to have an arranged marriage. They wanted to kind of take me back into their way of life, which did not match with my values. And so,
Raised in a different environment, right?
yes, so I had to really struggle and figure out a way to get the education that I wanted, because that was one thing she always told me. You have to stand on your own 2 feet, you have to study, you have to figure this out. So after that, I eventually found my way to coming to the US. And I did my bachelor's in Boston. I started working and got a job on the West Coast. I moved out to California.
Okay.
In Boston, I was a poor student. I was able to transfer a lot of my credits from India because I'd started university there while I waited to be able to come to the US and figure out.
So India, when you said, which part was it?
Pune.
Oh, Pune. Okay.
Yeah.
So this all happened in Pune. That's where
Correct.
you grew up. Okay.
Yes, I grew up in Pune.
Okay.
And so I eventually ended up in Boston doing my bachelor's in communication and management. I had started as a broadcasting major, actually.
Oh, okay.
But then I changed my mind and got a more practical degree.
Okay.
And then I got my first job in a PR firm out on the West Coast, and I was working with tech companies.
All right.
I realized very quickly that tech was the way to go. So I applied for a master's.
Okay.
But the journey wasn't easy. I was a poor student living on a very tight budget. In Boston, I lived really outside of the city and walked, in the snow for miles to catch 2 trains to get into the city to go to college. And long, hard days. When I went for my master's in Arizona, Arizona State University gave me a TA-ship and in-state tuition.
Okay.
So that was incredible. I'm always grateful to them for that. And I lived, again, far away from campus, had to bike in the 100-degree heat.
So it's completely opposite of
Completely
Boston.
opposite. So it was a struggle, but I got my master's in information management.
Okay.
There too, I'd started with an MBA, but I quickly realized between the finances and everything, I had to change it to a 1-year program
Okay.
so that I could get working and start earning a living.
Okay.
So I got a job again back in the West Coast, and I moved out here at HP. At the time, HP was a really great company to work for, and that's how I got my education and my first job opportunity.
And then when did you get married? After your master's, or was it before your master's?
I actually have been married before.
Oh, okay.
So in India itself, I met someone, and because I didn't have financial freedom at the time, he knew that if we got married, he already had job offers in the US, then my parents would have to release any funds to help me, because then I become his responsibility. So he got married and we moved. His job were actually primarily on the West Coast, and I was in Boston. But he helped settle me, stayed a little bit, and then moved out to the West Coast.
Okay.
Over time, we both realized that we loved each other in a very different way. We were really close friends, but not as partners. I wanted children, I wanted a family, and he didn't.
Okay.
And so he eventually actually said I needed to move on.
Okay.
And that was really hard,
Yeah.
but I did. And I met my husband at HP at work.
Okay. All right. Okay.
And my husband, Mahesh, is just absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
And then, growing up in a very secured environment, and coming here and kind of figuring it out all yourself, right? When you were doing your undergrad and then grad, right?
Yes.
Must have been a lot of completely different, like where, you know how in India it's very, there's always help around, and right? So how did you manage through that? Like what?
It was definitely a big change, and I would say, but my childhood had prepared me for this because of the hardships I'd experienced. You know, in India at the time, most family units were 2 parents, 2 children. I was, you know, only child, single mother. We'd already experienced, I'd already experienced the differences, the hardships in that way. That had already strengthened me.
Okay.
So by the time I came here, yes, it was very hard. It was definitely not comfortable. I couldn't even afford to buy like $20 pair of jeans.
Yeah.
And experiencing that kind of difficulty definitely was strengthening in many ways.
Yeah.
But again, being a caregiver at the age of 15
Yeah.
will change you in ways that is unimaginable.
Yeah. See,
Watching.
I didn't know all this, you know, like, but it's like, and the hardships that shaped you, right? Like pushed you to push yourself, right? So, but then also you had the will to change the environment.
Absolutely. There was something in me that said, you have to do this. You have to be more. Even when things are hard, they can be harder. I did grow up, we had a women's shelter. So I did grow up seeing battered women and children, and, you know, police coming to the house, and seeing what happens to women when they're not independent. And it's not their fault. The things that you see as a child and in your home, you know, at 2 a.m., having someone come in seeking help, babysitting the children, showering them, bathing them, I learned that you had to be independent and strong. You don't want this to be your fate.
Yeah.
And it's not their fault. So what can I do to ensure that I do not find myself ever in one of those situations?
Yeah.
And how can I help others when, and the only way is when you're independent, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're not independent,
Yeah.
you're no help to anybody.
Yeah.
And then once you know, what you do, what you say makes more sense, right? If you're doing what you are talking about or preaching, right?
Yes. I mean, if you're not independent, you cannot help anybody. So that was my thing. That was my driver, is I want to be independent.
So it's very important for us to understand from this talk that women have to be independent financially, emotionally. They have to be independent to be able to, you know, handle things around them, right? Because if you know, if there's no financial freedom, then that's correct. Gives you like a little handicap there, right? Like you need to have your own finances, manage your own finances, right?
It's very important. You have to have education, and then you have to be financially independent. That's critical. And having seen what I've seen growing up, I knew that that was a big driver within me, that I would have to do that for myself.
Yeah. Yeah. So you know, like as you said, Poonam, you were lucky that you had your mom, who was so like, you know, so out there and so educated to teach you everything, or teach you. You were observing her and seeing that she was helping the women and everything. But not every girl gets that, you know. I would say that was an opportunity, if you think about it, right? So all of us need to understand that we need to give good education to our girls, right? Good education so they can get good jobs, and then they are financially independent, and then they're, you know, with that will come more independence, right? First is education, then finance, and then obviously, you know, more than that, right?
Absolutely. I think it's critical that we promote education for girls. And as we educate our girls, we also educate our sons to support their partners in the future, in the sense that they're going to be independent women that are going to be in the workforce, and you also need to participate in the household.
Yeah, that is
Right?
important. Yeah.
Yeah, without that, it's very hard, especially when girls have babies and all women. Then it gets harder, because now how do you pursue your career with,
Exactly.
with no support, right?
Exactly.
You need the support from the spouse.
Absolutely. That's very important. So choose good spouses.
That is so important. Yeah. So we talked about that, and we also talked about, now everything was okay. You had the family, but there was something that you still wanted to do different, right? Like you achieved what you wanted to achieve. Good job, a spouse, you started family, everything.
Yes.
Then what happened? Little forwarding your story a little bit.
So as you know, as I mentioned, I was a premature baby that was sickly and in the hospital even after I was born. They didn't name me for a year because they weren't sure if this baby was going to survive. So I haven't been as fortunate in terms of health. I think everybody has something that they carry, right? Having been a caregiver, I've also been on the other end where I've been the one that's been struggling with chronic health issues and in and out of the hospitals pretty much my entire life. And having experienced that, the moments where you are healthy and not in pain become so precious. They become very important, and you value your time because time is not endless. It's not limitless.
Yeah.
Once I felt that I had accomplished a lot of the things I wanted to, I realized that something was always missing. We as a family value service. I live my life with gratitude, life with meaning and purpose, and community. These are the three things that are known to give you happiness, and that's what brings me happiness. I'm grateful for my health, for my family and friends, and just to be able to wake up and have a good life, right? To be able to walk my dog. I'm grateful for all of that.
Yeah.
So having come through that, I realized that we are giving, we've been, supporting a school in India since 2016.
Okay.
We've been giving back to the world in our small way while working full time and taking care of my own family.
Yeah.
But I had a turning point in my life where I had an accident, and in that moment I realized I was this close to death. This was it. And when I came out of that, I realized, is this how I want to live my life? So far I have no regrets, and I'm very happy, but I will regret not doing more. And so I started Blue Terra.
Okay.
And the vision for Blue Terra, when we founded it, was to help children escape poverty and to support and encourage the next generation of leaders in environmental stewardship.
Okay.
So it was twofold. We firmly believe in education, because without education, neither my husband or I would be where we are today.
Yeah.
But we also agree that things are changing in the world. You and I already feel climate change,
Yeah.
but the next generation is going to really live it. And I wanted to create hope. I wanted to create an energy and a momentum and positivity. And what better than educating kids?
Yeah, the future of the world. Right?
Yes, the next generation. So we educate kids in countries globally. Currently, we help support kids in Honduras, in Kenya, in India.
All right.
These are all American-founded grassroots organizations.
Okay.
But we also promote environmentalism and stewardship within the school's curriculum.
All right.
They feel it there because food scarcity, climate change is having a direct impact on food resources, flash flooding. We were building a school in Honduras that was completely destroyed by floods.
Okay.
So they are definitely seeing the impacts. We also give scholarships to students that want to pursue a bachelor's degree or a master's degree at the university level in environmental studies, ecology, something sustainability as it pertains to the environment, agro-farming, electrical engineering, chemistry, some area that will help with the environment.
Okay. Okay.
We also partner with Arizona State University on a new venture challenge. So the students work on new ventures, but we give a sustainability grant. So the one with the best sustainable idea will get a grant to further help them with their business. So that's another way. So we're helping from little kids all the way through entrepreneurship, but it's all education related.
Okay.
Okay. So little kids and building stuff so they understand the value of environment and how to maintain it, right?
Yes, but we primarily sponsor education.
Okay.
So we sponsor, last year we helped over 100 kids
Okay.
get an education for a year. And we also then want to create leaders right here at home. So we are taking community connection trips. We take volunteers to our partner schools where they can help tutor, teach at the schools. We also, each school has a different program in Honduras. They're trying to build schools across Honduras. So we go there and we help with construction. We also teach at the school. In Kenya, they have a sustainable farm, so you can work on the sustainable farm and teach at the school.
Okay.
In India, you can volunteer at the school doing tutoring. You can also do some health outreach. So each school has the tutoring and teaching aspect, but they also have another program that you could work with. This really hits home because we've taken groups of as small as 5 to as large as 14 families, teens, and they're seeing that even at the age of 14 or at the age of 55, I can make an impact. One person can make an impact.
So that was a lot of change from what you were doing, right? Completely different from what you were doing before, right? So what did you do a lot of research about what or was there some guidance, because you were all in HP working and everything, right? Or was there another step in between, or elaborate on that, please? What so you're working in a high-tech job,
Yes.
and then now this nonprofit, what happened?
So we've always been supporting education, I would say since probably 2016.
Okay.
And our kids were always involved. We took a trip to India and they volunteered at the school, one of the schools that we support. As a family, we've always given a percentage of our income away. That's always been our belief.
In education, right?
In education.
Okay.
But what happened was I've been in various tech jobs in various tech companies, from HP to Oracle and others. I had my own startup as well that was focused on helping students get job ready.
So that started that, right?
That started at that point where once I left corporate America, I came back with a startup to help students.
Okay.
So that passion of helping the next generation has always been there within me, because I myself struggled.
Yeah.
And it's so important that there are people that invest in education, right? That made me always want to give back and help. And that's how the journey began.
Okay.
Okay. So the level changed, right? Before you were giving, but then you started doing more, and now you're completely in it, right? You're actually doing from bottom to top, everything, right? Basically organizing
Yes.
You have a team, obviously, but
We're
the
a
vision is
nonprofit.
entirely like
Yeah, we're a complete nonprofit. So I left corporate startup, everything completely to then fully focus on the nonprofit.
Okay.
And we're
okay.
100% volunteer run.
Yeah.
We are a registered US nonprofit.
Mm-hmm.
It's completely
Okay.
100% that way.
so. Basically the family, the kids are all involved in what you are doing, right?
Absolutely. Our kids are part of it. We have a student board. We have an advisory board.
Oh.
We opened it up last year.
Okay.
So last year, once we took our first, actually our second volunteer trip, but the first larger group we took to Honduras.
Okay.
Those teens that came loved the experience so much that they actually requested that I open it up.
Oh.
It was just 4 of us working on it quietly, not, it wasn't like a public, open nonprofit with a website or anything. And they are the ones that pushed me and motivated me and encouraged me to actually allow more people to come in and have a larger impact.
Okay.
So in August we opened it up, and we have 8 new board members, advisory board members. In January they set up a student board, and we're a startup nonprofit that's already made a huge impact in a year.
Okay.
So it's growing, and it's very encouraging, and it's really the next generation of leaders that are moving this forward.
Yeah.
And it's for them, right?
Yeah,
it's
it's
focused
for them. It's of them, something.
Yes.
Because their voices are being heard, and they're executing your vision, right? And they're also contributing to increase the whole the area of helping and everything, right? Basically, they are the student leaders, right?
Yes, yes. And the advisory board is incredible. I mean, they have contributed so much in terms of time, advice, support. It's just growing. And I think when there is a cause that you're passionate about, right, it attracts those kind of humans that are equally passionate.
Yeah.
And like-minded.
Like-minded, yeah. No, that's a great. That's what you're doing is awesome, Poonam. It's like, education. It ties down to what you grew up with, right? Education is important for kids, all kids. And you are trying. This organization that you have is helping education and also tying with the environment.
Yes.
Which also what we need is basically the 2 things we need to survive in this world, right?
Yes.
A good education and a good environment.
Yes, we absolutely need it, because, I mean, what kind of planet are we leaving behind, right?
Yeah.
And that was something that really had me concerned.
Yeah.
And I wanted to support the next generation and help them do what they need to do to be able to survive with this planet as we're leaving it behind.
Yes, that's a great vision. Yeah.
Thanks for joining me, Poonam. It was great to talk to you and learn so much. And I know whoever's going to watch it is going to see, their passion and, what you are doing for the future of the world, right? Yeah.
Yes, I mean, and I'm really happy. I love what I'm doing. I would encourage people to check us out at blueterra.org.
Okay.
We are always looking for volunteers, advisory board members, to come join us on one of our Travel with a Purpose community connection trips. So there are many ways to engage with us.
All right.
All right. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me, Sanjana. It's been wonderful talking to you.
If you wanna talk about anything at all, then you know who to call. Just tell Sanjana. Tell Sanjana. Tell Sanjana. Tell Sanjana. Just tell Sanjana.